Hey everyone, Jim with Evolution Powersports. Here today to talk to you guys about drive belts for the Polaris Pro R, the Polaris RZR, RZR Turbo, Pro XP, Turbo R, and Can-Am X3. And I want to give customers a little bit of background. So back in the, when the Can-Am X3 first came out and we started making, much higher than stock horsepower, we ran into a problem where we were breaking belts all the time, okay? And so at that time, we started working with a company called G-Boost, and they made us some belts that were absolutely superior. We've used them for the last 7 years. World's Best Belt, the Badass belts, the EX series, all great belts, okay? It's allowed us to, take CVT clutching to a place where, nobody thought it could go, 6-7 years ago, okay? Where we're making, 500-600 horsepower on these vehicles and getting the power to the ground. With that said, we've not offered an aftermarket replacement belt for the Polaris Pro R. And the reason is the Polaris Pro R belt, even though it's an OEM belt, is the best belt on the market, or has been the best belt on the market. It's been more durable than anything else we've ever tested. And so we didn't want to offer, something that was less durable than a factory belt. And so we decided to go down the road of having a belt specifically made for Evolution Powersports to be the strongest belt in the industry, bar none. So how this process began was we approached a few different manufacturers, okay, found a manufacturer that wanted to work with us, Bando. Okay, Bando is the company that makes the current World's Best Belt, but we wanted to make a belt that was even better than that. And so we gave them the specifications of what we wanted to do. We wanted to make 1,000 horsepower on a Pro R, have it be able to survive that. And they made for us about 10 different compounds that we tested. And just to give you a little bit of idea, it's very difficult to test belts, okay? Because you can go out to the sand dunes, and unless you have a really good baseline for a belt and then run it exactly the same way, it's very difficult to get data. So we decided we were going to test it in a very specific way to determine what was going to be the ultimate in durability and getting power to the ground, and then go and test it in real world conditions. So what we did was we took our Pro R here, and we set the horsepower to about 550 hub horsepower, and then we started testing belts. And how we would compare is we knew that the Polaris Pro R belt was the best belt in the industry for the Pro R, and we would see how many runs it would take on the hubs with with a lot of load on the car. I mean, a lot of load, way more than you would normally run at that 550 hub horsepower level. And what it turned out is the factory Polaris belt, we would get about 8 runs per belt before it would break. Then what we did was we tested all the different compounds that we got from Bando and tested exactly the same way. How many runs could we get? Okay, and a lot of the Bando belts were good. I mean, they were equal to, 2 of the compounds were equal to the Polaris Pro R OEM belt, but equal to was not good enough for us. We wanted something that was by far and away better than anything else. And one compound that we tested, we actually got double the amount of dyno pulls that we could get even on an OEM Polaris Pro R belt. So we knew we found our compound at that point. But the cool thing is, not only did we get more runs than anything else, but it also made more power than any of the other belts that we tested, including the OEM. Okay, and it's because of the material that's used, We get a little bit better traction on the belt. And, on average, we're making, between 10 and 12 hub horsepower more than any of the other belts. So we knew we found our compound. For the next phase of testing, okay, because that type of really only appeals to, maybe a drag racer, somebody that, is going to really, with a ton of power. We didn't want it just to be only for drag racing. We wanted this to be the most durable belt, regardless of what conditions you run in, right? So whether you're a desert racer or you're riding the dunes with, 300 or 400 horsepower car, that it was going to be the most durable in a variety of conditions that our customers use it in. And so my brother ran the Alpha belt, Vegas to Reno, ran the entire race on one belt. Okay, no belt breakage, no belt changes. We've had a number of other short course and desert racers that have run the belt. We have run it out in the sand dunes, and by far and away, it has been the most durable belt, period. All of this testing took place over about an 18-month time period, okay, which is a long period of time, but now we're finally ready to launch these belts. They're going to launch sometime in April 2025. And like I said, they are the best belts you're ever going to put on your car. We wanted it that way. We want people to be able to go to the dunes, to run their high horsepower cars, not have to, blow apart, belt covers and spend downtime. And with Pro Rs, where they've gone power-wise, it's crazy how much power we can get out of a Pro R. I mean, the car behind me is over 800 horsepower to the hubs. So, being able to get that kind of power, to get transmitted to the ground is a huge deal. So people may ask, what's the belt made out of? Why is it so much better? Well, creating a belt for, for a CVT car, for a heavy car like a Can-Am X3 or a Polaris Pro R, it just takes, it's a special formulation of cord material, rubber compounds, and then the way belts are constructed is they're glued together. But really what separates, the Alpha Series belts is the way that they're finished, okay? And a lot of belts, especially from like aftermarket manufacturers, they cut them with knives, and so it's not a very precise, it sounds like it would be, but it's not a very precise way to get the angles finished on the belts themselves, okay? The way our belts are made is they're actually ground, the sides are ground to a very specific tolerance. So you get a better belt to sheave fitment where the angles are correct. But really, that's the cream of the crop, but the main thing is the belt compound, okay? That's the magic sauce that makes this belt better than anything else that's out there. So people may ask, are you gonna stop selling, the world's best belt? Absolutely not. The world's best belt, great belt. It's been a staple, for us for the last 7 years. It's good for a lot of customers, but for people that want, the best belt available, people that don't want to hassle with, blowing belts out in the dunes. And I'm not saying you can't I'm not saying you can't break this belt, but what I am saying is that, these belts are better than anything else out there. You'll have the least issue with these at the high horsepower levels. If you're racing, 100% this is the right belt for you. If you're drag racing, 100%. If you're dune riding, this is the best belt you can get. If you're trail riding, it's still the best belt, but trail riding is not as hard on belts as it is when you're in the sand dunes or you're desert racing, cross-country racing, or drag racing. Okay, those are the customers that are going to want this belt. And if you're trail riding and you never want to change a belt again, well, this is probably the belt you want. As I said, these belts will be available April 2025. They'll only be available from Evolution Powersports. You can visit our website, evopowersports.com, or one of our authorized dealers will also have access to these belts, and then you can get out there and win more races.